Okay folks, Nathan from KBL Texas Homestead, and today I'm going to shoot a quick video on how I butcher venison on the homestead. First and foremost, I want to give a shout out to a good buddy of mine. I was unfortunately not able to make it into the woods this year, so I was not able to harvest any venison for myself and my family on the homestead. Venison has been a big part of our daily meals for years now. You know, we eat a lot of venison. We're able to harvest them, put them in the freezer, and feed my family throughout the year. So it works out great, cuts costs on actual meat that you buy from the market. As we're trying to become more self-sustainable, we're raising animals now on the homestead, so that way we can butcher. I have beef, I have cows, I have goats, chickens now, so we're going to be added to that in the journey to be able to become more self-sustainable and not rely on supermarkets and things of such to supply us with food. But having said that, shout out to him. He knows who he is. I appreciate the deer. He gifted me 2 deer minus 1 hind quarter and 1 backstrap. That's a hell of a friend. Go get you something like that. I appreciate it. Second, I would like to give a shout out just real quick to Ridge Life. The Ridge Life channel, he shot a video a few weeks back, I guess maybe a little longer, about harvesting and butchering a deer. Did a great job, so give a shout out to him. If y'all want, I'll put a link of his video in the comments so y'all can click on it, go check his video out, because he kind of inspired me to go ahead and make my video. I've been butchering deer for years now, and to me it's more of a hey, most of the time I really don't have time. I just got to get it butchered, cut up, put it in the freezer. And today I've got a little bit of time, so I'm gonna shoot a video. Okay, so first, most important in my opinion is your knives. You want to have a good set of sharp knives when you're butchering any animal, much less bigger game animals. This is just a set that I picked up, but any knives will do. Just make sure that they are sharp. There's nothing worse than butchering an animal with a dull knife. It'll make your experience horrible. You will not like it, and it'll be daunting, and it'll become a task that you hate to do, but you have to. If you use a sharp knife, it helps out tremendously. It makes things easier, and it'll make your experience with butchering an animal go a lot further. Also, today I'm going to be using freezer tape and freezer paper. Now, normally I use a Food Saver vacuum seal system and bags, vacuum seal bags, prepared bags, to seal all my deer meat for long-term storage in the freezer. But for today's video, I'm just going to use something simple that everybody can pick up, have, don't cost a whole lot. And this is actually stuff that I've had from last season, so I'll just be using it. But I've got butcher tape, freezer paper. Then you're gonna need 2 pans. I just use these disposable foil pans because I have them on hand. So I'm gonna have 2 of those, and I'll explain that as we go into the video and why we use them. But I use them for one's gonna be ground meat, and then one's gonna be stew meat. So as you're butchering, you'll trim up all your meat, and all your trimmings will go into one of these 2 pans. And I do stew meat cubes, so I cut up big enough chunks that I think I can use for stew meat. I'll throw them in there, and then all the small scraps that I can't get cubes out of, I'll just throw them in the second pan and use them for my grind pile. What's great about that is even when I get low on grind meat and I've got all this stew meat freezed up, I can actually just take that and make ground meat up out of it as well if I still have some available. So that works out pretty good. I also like to have a fresh ice chest with fresh ice in it. So as I'm butchering this deer, I'm going to be breaking down the muscle parts on this hind quarter, and I will throw the meat into this cooler of fresh ice. That way, while I'm staking out or cutting up one portion, the rest of it will be sitting in here staying cool. Unfortunately for me, I live in Texas, and when I butcher animals, normally it's 70, 80 degrees outside. Today it's about 60, so it's a little bit in my favor, but it's still too warm to just leave meat out for any length of time. So I try to keep it on ice as much as possible. And then, of course, you will need your deer meat, the main course, right? You gotta have the deer meat. Hopefully you can see this, but first off, I'm gonna take this hawk off right here. There's a joint right here. Hopefully you can see that in the video, but it's soft cartilage there. You want to take your knife and find that soft cartilage and just go right in there with it. Cut through. Now that's going to cut that bone, free it up. Then you want to work your knife around, cut the meat around that side. All you're trying to do is find that hinge point, so you can get your knife in between them bones. Knock that ball joint out, and it should come out just like that. Now again, like I talked about earlier, I like to throw this stuff on ice as soon as I get it, so I'll come back and break this down later. I'm gonna throw it on ice. Next, I am going to trim up all this stuff that's here on top. You can see it here. All this is just gonna go into my trimming pile. I'm gonna save that. This here. Now you can see I'm doing this. You've got seams, natural seams that you can actually just run your fingers through and separate some of this meat. Then you just do a little knife work to open it up. And that's all around. God dog it. That's all around. Again, I'm gonna take this chunk of meat off the top here, which is just gonna be some stew meat. Separate that. You can see that nice seam right there. Very nice seam. Just open it up. Right along the seams. If you peel it back, go to my smaller knife here, you can peel it back and you can just see where it's seamed. You do a little knife work, nice light strokes, and you can see it open up right before your eyes and separate. That's what you want, to go right in between the seams. Don't cut the meat too much, but if you do cut it, it's not gonna hurt nothing. So just separate that seam. I still got some bone in there on mine. Work around this bone. And get that separated. Now, there you go. It's a nice big chunk of meat that I'll come back and dress up here in a few. I am gonna go ahead and get this stuff off here. Get all this fat, nasty stuff off that I don't want in my meat. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. All right. And here's another separate muscle. It's got a natural seam right there. Hopefully I'm getting this for you in the video, guys. I don't have my screen, so I can't see, but there's two separate meats right there. There's one there and this one here. This is actually called the, what we call a hidden tenderloin. It's hidden inside that back shoulder muscle. And this is a fine, tender piece of meat. Cook it just like you would a tenderloin. You can skewer it up, you can fillet it open and stuff it. It's just a beautiful, tender piece of meat. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and take this bone out. My buddy, he likes to split his with the bone on, normally using a reciprocating saw or something of the sort. And man, it just leaves, I don't know if you can see that, but it just leaves these nice fine bone points on it, and I'm sticking myself all over with them. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this bone off real quick. Here you just wanna take your knife, follow the bone. You can feel the bone. Just follow it out with your knife. Let your knife scrape on the bone, tell you where to go. Completely debone it. and just small strokes with the tip of your knife. Let's get that. Now you can see that ball joint there. Hopefully you saw that, but I got down to the ball joint. So that's right at the hip on that hind quarter. That comes right off. You just get right up in there with your knife. Keep following this bone. Now the bones are a little tricky on this hind quarter. They do curve in and out. Just keep working your knife around it. Don't worry about it. You'll get it all off. Like I said, no meat will be wasted. You can come back and scrape the bone if you don't get it all in the first go, and put that meat in your scrap piles for grinding up. So we'll just keep peeling this meat off, dragging our knife along the bone. There. And there you have it. There's half of the hip bone or pelvic bone on the hind quarter. There's the ball and socket. There's the ball here. Hopefully you can see that. Here's the ball here that joint came out of. Just comes out rather easy. Now you can save these bones, do what you like, make stew, give it to the dog, whatever you like. All right, so now that that's out the way, I'm gonna go ahead and take this slab of meat out right here. It's already all just seam. It's actually connected to the bone in here, which would be, I guess, the femur bone. Go ahead and just follow that bone and get that cut off. And there you have that piece of meat. Nice piece of meat that'll get further broke down. On ice it goes. All right, so now here I'm just gonna work my hands into another seam right here. It's got a natural seam. Just keep working it, get that separated. Right next to this femur bone. That's just a beautiful, beautiful cut. All right, so you've got this natural seam here. It's actually right on the bone. You can follow it. If you take your knife, dab it in the bone, and just follow that seam, you'll hit that bone. Just keep working your knife around that bone. You'll take all this meat off, straight off of this bone. Get this bad boy out of here. Do the same thing on this side. Come around, scrape the bone, keep your knife edge facing the bone. Just use the tip of your knife. Work that meat out all the way around the bone. There's that ball from the ball and socket earlier. There it is, bone out, pretty dang clean. So put that in the scrap. Now you have two muscles here left that you can separate. Get this separated off to the side. Get a little bit of this fat cleaned up. Okay. I think there's one more. Just kind of muscle in here. There's a seam you want to separate there. Separate that at the seam. There you can see it just kind of peeling away. Just kind of peeling away there. And there's you another little chunk of meat. I'm gonna get all this junk out of here. Discard all of that. put that on ice. So here's a nice, clean piece of meat. It's good for staking out, which is what I like to do, stake it out. This was a nice young deer, so it'll make good steaks. Nice young harvestable deer, makes good roast. If you want to leave that whole for a roast piece, you can do that, and that'll make a good roast. Slap it in the pot with some veggies, make a nice roast for that. Good solid piece of meat. All right, I'll finish getting this separated. There's just this knuckle piece here. All this scrap I'll take off. Still just trying to follow that natural seam. That way you don't get into the meat and butcher it up too much. You can get that. There's your football roast. We call it the football roast, just a big chunk of meat. Take this off. Throw that in the scrap. It's a nice, good chunk of meat here. Good for roasting here. Wrap this bad boy in bacon, throw it on the grill. And then you have what's left here. And again, this will all probably go in the scraps. I may cut one steak out of that section of meat there. Again, my family, we love to eat steaks. Venison steaks, beef steaks, T-bones, tomahawks. We like all the steaks. Again, this big old chunk of fat. That's usually what has a lot of gamey taste in it, so we love to take that out of there. Get that fat out of there. Cleans up the meat real nice. Cut any of that junk off that you don't want. You can get as finicky as you want with this process, or as little as you want. I like to take all the junk off. Clean my meat up real nice. This cleared out. This here. Take all that out. There you have it. That's a nice little chunk of meat. You can see some blood here. A little bit of sinew here. I'll take that stuff out. As you fine clean it later on. I like to get all this blood meat out. As much of it out as possible. Little clots. I'll throw that away. Get this out. I don't really care to have that in my meat. Again, it's just blood. A lot of that will wash out. You can clean it up real nice. But that'll be that. All right, folks, the sun is starting to encroach on me again, so I'll try to make this quick. Now I'm just gonna break down this front quarter. Most of this front quarter, it usually goes to grind meat. Most of the people just grind this up. It ain't worth dealing with. There is some usable cuts in here, a couple of them that I'd like to show you, that I take the time to do, because again, it just makes great steaks, and I love steaks. So I will say that most of this does end up going to grind meat and cube meat, but I do have a couple of cuts that I would like to show you. So let's get to it. First off, this one came with all the flank meat that just comes right off of the ribs. We leave that all attached to our front quarter. So I'm gonna go ahead and take all that off and then put it on the ice chest while I do the rest. Turn it around. Find this meat where it starts, right up in here. You can, again, it's just as you're working it. I'm gonna do this a little quicker because I've got other stuff I need to do, but you can see the seam. It's just right in there. You can cut it right off the seam and get it off of there. All right, so now you got your blade bone here. This is your blade. There's a bone that runs right along the center of it, kind of splits these up into 2 chunks. We call this the flat iron. So I like to take my knife and just follow that bone, skin that meat all the way down, all the way to the blade bone, both sides. Do that on both sides there. Then you can take your knife and just stay right along the flat, working this meat out, pulling it back as you go. Get all that meat using the tip of your knife. Work it all in there. And that bone kind of dogs off here. You can follow that. Do the same thing on this side. Work your knife till you find the end of that bone. Then you take it, follow the downward, kind of tucked underneath that bone. Same thing over here, kind of go underneath the bone. And you can cut this all the way back to this joint. Alright, so now that you got that out the way, you've got this blade meat still in here, this chunk of meat here. We'll separate it completely down the bone. Follow the bone around. Take that chunk of meat off at the seam. So that's a nice piece of steak meat right there. Continue following that bone with this knife. This bone kind of curves inward once you get over that lip. Like I said, it's a little tricky, but once you do it a few times, you get the hang of it. That bone is in there, right in here. It curves in. Run your knife right along there. Let the weight of the meat kind of help you fillet it out. There you have it. Another pretty clean bone. Again, you can save them bones for stew, making broth and stuff of that nature. I won't on these. Now you've got this big old chunk of meat that you can do as you wish. Again, I'm just going to try to clean up some of this junk that's on it. Now that piece that you cut off inside that flat, it's got a seam here, but you can separate it. This is another hidden piece of good meat. This is your flat iron steak. What would be a flat iron steak on a cow? You know, this is this equivalent on your venison. That makes for a nice steak there. So I'll clean her up. Take this off. See, that's some pretty tough stuff there. have it. And there's your flat iron steak. A little cleanup. Perfect for the pan. And there she is. I'll square it up. That'll be meat scrap. Take a little bit off of here. It'll go into the scrap. And there's one nice big flat iron steak. Or you can cut it, make it two, which is what I usually do. Make it 2 steaks. And there you go. Same thing with this guy here. Get all this fat out from inside of it. Take all this rough stuff out on the outside, this fat, this sinew. That's another nice piece of meat. Makes for a good steak. You can leave it whole like that if you like. I'm just gonna cut mine down. I'll square it up a little bit. That'll be scrap. And I'll cut it in half here. Make 2 nice sized steaks. Alright folks, now I'm just gonna take this piece of meat here, clean it all up, nice and clean, get all the stuff off of it that I don't want. Again, like I said, I like to have my meat nice and pretty deep red, so I'm gonna get all this stuff off, and then I'll show you how I steak it out. Cut me another steak here, and one more here, and this I'm gonna throw in my scrap. So again, these are just nice. They're little steaks. I don't know if you call them a steak, strip steak maybe. But I love cooking these on the pan this size for my family. They're perfect. We'll slap them in a pan with some butter, garnish them up, and call it good. Now what I will do is take these and clean them up a little bit further. Once I have them cut like that, I'll take this off and just square it up. That'll go on my scrap. That's a nice little steak there. Take this here, square that up a little bit. Square that up a little bit, and that'll go on my scrap. That'll be 2 nice steaks. Take this one here, square that up, got my scrap. Square that up in my scrap. That'll be another nice little steak. One last one. And again, that's just to pretty it up. You don't have to do that, but I like to make it a little more appealing to the eye. when you slap them in the pan and on a plate, there's 4 little steaks that are ready to go, be wrapped up, all from the same muscle group. So I'm gonna throw this back in the ice chest till I get ready to wrap it. Cut that up into about 3/4, 1 inch, however thick you like them. I'll just throw that in my scraps. So as you can see here, some people don't like to take the time to do this, don't think it's worth it. I like it. Like I said, it's just a little piece of steak. You might have to have a couple of them, but you spread them out, put them in a pan with some butter, some garlic. They come out mighty fine. We'll just square these up, put this in the scrap. That one looks pretty good. This one looks pretty good. That one looks pretty good. Now, if you want to, with the discoloration on it, you can take it. You can see it here. Sometimes I'll take it and just cut that off. Throw it into your scrap pile. Bring out the pretty meat. But you can see the grain on this meat, hopefully. And man, it just renders very nice in the pan. Very nice in the pan. Tastes very, very good. Put that in there, and there you go. Some more steaks that I'll put on ice while I get the rest of them butchered up. Get my drill. You want me to help you?
No.
Yes. Fixing to have to stop shooting this video temporarily. I've got to go do some honeydews that are on the list.
No, I can do it.
So, y'all bear with me.
I can do it. I just want to play with these things I want.
That's something you can play with.
Last time.
Woo! Let me arrange things. Sun's creeping in on me. Getting over the house, so I'm gonna have to speed things up. Okay, so now into the nitty-gritty. I'm just gonna show you how I separate my burger meat from my stew meat. So I just take a chunk of meat like here. Looks pretty good. Anything that I can get roughly a 1 inch by 1 inch cube of, I'll use for stew meat. So I'll take this. This will be my grind meat. Then I'll take this here, cube it, and this will be my stew meat. It'll go into there. Same here. Just cut you some chunks. If you can get a good chunk out of it, we'll consider that stew meat. Throw it in here. This here is just like real thin, layered. I'll throw that into my grind meat. Grab a piece here, cube it, nice red meat. beef stew meat, ground meat. I'm gonna take that junk off. Ground meat. This here will be stew meat. Take another piece here. I'm gonna take this, it's got a little bit of gristle in it, it's rather flim. I'm gonna cut it up, throw that into the grind pile. This here's nice meat. I'll cube it up. That'll be stew meat. Grind. Stew. And so on and so forth. Like I said, anything you feel you can get a good cube at, for what you desire, what you like, you know, we'll take it and throw it in a stew with some veggies, slow cook it. It's real nice meat. And then, like I said, as well as I like to do it this way because I can put this in the stew pile, freeze it, I'll package it up in, you know, a pound, 2 pound little wrap, and then I will throw it in the freezer. And when we go to use it, if we start running out of grind meat, I will take that stew meat and grind it up and make ground meat out of it. So grind meat. I'll finish this up and we'll get back to you. Alright folks, here's the haul of all the meat. I've got my diced pile, nice healthy diced pile. I'm gonna use this for stew meat, making beef tips and rice and beef stew and stuff of that nature. This here's the grind pile. This will all be ground up into burger meat. Then this is all the steaks that I've cut up. Again, this is the hidden tenderloin, I call it. I'm gonna wrap that whole and I'll cook it as such. This one as well. And these are just the various steaks that I was able to cut out of the hindquarters and the front quarters. And you know, it's just like I said, we eat a lot of steak. We love eating steak. We can grill them, you can pan fry them, you can do a lot with them. And at the end of the day, when I'm in need of more ground meat, I can simply just ground them up, make more ground meat if I need it. So I like to cut them like this. Gives me options of how to prepare them, how to cook them. Well, folks, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about it. I'm sure I can do a little bit better. I've got another deer. This is just one deer that I butchered. I got another to do, so I'll shoot at it and see what I can do. But leave me a comment, tell me what you think, and I'll get back with you. Right, let's get this stuff packaged up. Now I like to just go through here and pick 5 decent sized steaks. So that's what we have, family of 5. That's normally what we'll eat in a sit down. Call that good. Wrap that up. Put a piece of tape or 2 on it. All right, it's always important to label and date your product. That way you know exactly what it is.